For 1,000 years, the world has believed the ancient civilization of Aurel vanished in a magical catastrophe. But when a young courier named Rowan finds a living map hidden behind a murder and a forgotten key, he uncovers evidence that the lost civilization may not be gone at all. As kingdoms prepare for war and dark powers awaken beneath forgotten ruins, Rowan must decide who to trust, because the map is leading somewhere impossible, and something ancient is waiting at the end of it. Chapter 1. The Man Who Should Have Been Dead. The man crashed through the market crowd moments before sunrise. People shouted. A cart overturned. Fruit scattered across the stone road. Rowan Vale barely stepped aside before the stranger slammed into him. The man collapsed face first into the mud. Blood spread beneath his coat. The market fell silent. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Rowan knelt beside him. The stranger's breathing was shallow. His hands trembled. His eyes searched frantically through the crowd, as if something was hunting him, something invisible. "Easy," Rowan said. "You're hurt." The stranger grabbed Rowan's wrist. His grip was surprisingly strong. "Hide it." Rowan frowned. "Hide what?" The stranger coughed blood. "Before they find me." "Who?" The man's eyes widened with terror. "The Ash Order." The word sent a chill through the crowd. Several merchants immediately backed away. A woman grabbed her child and hurried away. Everyone knew the stories. The Ash Order was supposed to be a legend, a secret cult used to frighten children. Nothing more. The stranger reached inside his coat. Rowan tensed. Instead of a weapon, the man produced a small silver key. He shoved it into Rowan's hand. "Don't let them." The man's voice broke. His body stiffened, then went still. Dead. The marketplace exploded into whispers. Rowan stared at the key. Cold metal, ancient craftsmanship. Strange symbols covered its surface, symbols he had never seen before, yet somehow recognized. A city guard pushed through the crowd. "Move aside." Rowan stepped back. The guard examined the body. His expression darkened. "Courier." Rowan looked up. "Yes?" "Did he say anything?" Rowan hesitated. The silver key felt heavy in his pocket. Too heavy. "No." The guard studied him carefully, then nodded. "Go home." Something about the man's voice felt wrong. He seemed afraid. Not of the corpse, of something else. As Rowan left, another figure appeared at the edge of the crowd. A woman in dark gray robes. Her hood concealed most of her face. Yet Rowan felt her watching him. Specifically him. The woman glanced at the dead stranger, then looked directly at Rowan. A faint smile touched her lips. Not friendly. Knowing. Moments later, she vanished into the crowd. An hour later, Rowan stood inside the courier hall. Rain tapped softly against the windows. The silver key rested on the table. He should have reported it. Instead, he could not stop staring at it. His friend Jace entered carrying a stack of letters. "You're late." Rowan barely looked up. Jace noticed the key immediately. "What is that?" "No idea." Jace picked it up. The moment his fingers touched the metal, the symbols began glowing. Both men froze. The glow lasted only a second, then vanished. Jace nearly dropped the key. "You saw that?" Rowan nodded. "I saw it." Silence filled the room. Finally, Jace spoke. "Maybe we should tell someone." Before Rowan could answer, a loud crash echoed from downstairs. Both men jumped. Another crash followed. Then shouting, then screams. Rowan rushed to the window. His blood ran cold. Black-cloaked figures were entering the street. Dozens of them. People fled in panic. The strangers moved with terrifying purpose. Straight toward the courier hall. Jace swallowed hard. "Rowan! I know." A violent bang shook the building. The front door had been smashed open. Heavy footsteps echoed below. Someone screamed. Then silence, a terrible silence. Rowan grabbed the key. Every instinct told him to run. A voice echoed up the stairwell, calm, cold, patient. "Bring me the courier." Rowan froze. The voice sounded impossibly old, as if centuries spoke through a single mouth. Jace stepped backward. "What do we do?" Rowan looked around desperately, then noticed something strange. The key was glowing again. A thin beam of silver light emerged from its tip, pointing toward the stone wall behind them. The wall cracked. Dust fell. Ancient symbols appeared beneath the plaster, symbols identical to those on the key. Neither man had ever seen them before, yet somehow both understood their meaning. Open. The entire wall slid aside, revealing a hidden passage descending into darkness. Heavy footsteps approached. Closer, closer. The ancient voice spoke again, this time directly outside the door. "I know the key has chosen you." The handle slowly turned. Rowan stared into the hidden tunnel. The key pulsed in his hand. The darkness seemed alive, waiting, calling. The door began to open, and deep beneath the city, something answered the key's light. Something that had been asleep for 1,000 years. Something that should never have awakened. Chapter 2. The Hidden Road. The door burst inward. Wood splintered across the room. Jace stumbled backward. Rowan tightened his grip on the silver key. 3 black-cloaked figures entered first. Behind them stood an older man wrapped in dark robes. His face looked strangely young and ancient at the same time. His eyes were gray, colorless, like ashes after a fire. The room grew colder the moment he entered. The old man studied Rowan. Then he smiled. "After all these centuries," he said softly, "the key-bearer returns." Rowan had no idea what that meant. He did not wait to find out. He grabbed Jace's arm. "Run!" Both men plunged into the hidden tunnel. The stone passage sealed itself behind them. The last thing Rowan heard was the old man's voice. Calm, certain. "You cannot hide from destiny, Rowan Vale." Darkness swallowed them. The tunnel stretched downward. Ancient stone steps disappeared into blackness. The silver key glowed brighter with every step. Enough to guide them. Enough to reveal walls covered in strange carvings. Rows of unfamiliar symbols filled the stone. Images appeared between them. Cities floating above clouds, golden towers, great ships sailing through the sky, and giant circles of light hanging over mountains. Jace stared at them. "What is this place?" "I don't know." But Rowan wasn't entirely telling the truth. Something about the carvings felt familiar. The same feeling he experienced in his dreams, as if he had walked these halls before, as if he belonged here. The thought terrified him. The tunnel eventually opened into a massive underground chamber. Both men stopped, speechless. A forgotten city stretched beneath the capital. Stone bridges crossed enormous caverns. Ancient buildings rose from darkness. Crystal lanterns still glowed despite centuries of abandonment. A river flowed through the center of the ruins. Its waters shimmered silver. Jace slowly turned in a circle. "This is impossible." Rowan agreed. The city should not exist. Not beneath the kingdom's largest capital. Not hidden beneath thousands of people. Yet there it was, silent, waiting. A lost world buried beneath another. Suddenly the key grew hot. Pain shot through Rowan's hand. He nearly dropped it. The symbols along its surface ignited with silver light. A beam projected from its tip. Not a map. Not exactly. A path. The glowing line stretched across the underground city, leading toward a distant tower, the tallest structure in the ruins. Its peak vanished into darkness. Jace noticed the path. "I think it wants us to go there." Rowan nodded. "I think you're right." Neither of them liked the idea, but they had no better option. Behind them waited the Ash Order. Ahead waited Mystery. At least Mystery wasn't actively trying to kill them. Yet. Hours passed as they crossed the Forgotten City. The deeper they traveled, the stranger the ruins became. Statues lined the streets. Not of kings, not of warriors, but ordinary people, farmers, builders, children. Every statue faced the same direction, toward the distant tower, as if worshipping it, or fearing it. The silence unsettled Rowan. No insects, no animals, nothing. Only their footsteps, and the faint hum of ancient power. They reached an abandoned square near sunset, or what felt like sunset. The cavern ceiling hid the sky. Time seemed meaningless underground. Jace collapsed beside a broken fountain. "We should rest." Rowan nodded. His legs felt ready to give out. He sat nearby. For several minutes, neither spoke. Finally, Jace looked at him. "What exactly happened this morning?" Rowan hesitated, then told him everything. The dying stranger, the warning, the key, the woman in gray robes, the attack. Jace listened carefully. When Rowan finished, Jace looked worried. "Do you think the stranger chose you for a reason?" "I don't know." "You don't believe that?" Rowan stared into the darkness. "No." "What do you believe?" Rowan swallowed. "I think he knew me." Jace frowned. "You'd never met him." "I know." "Then how could he know you?" Rowan had no answer, because the truth sounded insane. The stranger's face had seemed familiar, not from life, from dreams. A sudden sound interrupted them. Footsteps, not theirs. Both men jumped to their feet. Someone was approaching, slowly, carefully. A figure emerged from the darkness. A young woman carrying a lantern. She wore traveling clothes stained with dust. A short sword hung at her side, and unlike Rowan and Jace, she did not appear surprised to see another person underground. She lowered her lantern. Her sharp green eyes studied them, then settled on the silver key. For a moment, all color drained from her face. "No," she whispered. Rowan stepped backward. "Who are you?" The woman ignored the question. She pointed at the key. "Where did you get that?" Rowan tightened his grip. "Answer my question first." The woman sighed. "My name is Lyra Thorne." The name meant nothing to Rowan, but she looked relieved when he didn't recognize it. That immediately made him suspicious. Lyra crossed her arms. "Now answer mine." Rowan hesitated, then said, "A dying man gave it to me." Lyra closed her eyes, as though that answer confirmed a terrible fear. When she opened them again, she looked directly at Rowan. "If that's true," she said, "then we're all in far more danger than you realize." Jace exchanged a nervous glance with Rowan. "Why?" Lyra took a slow breath, then spoke the words that changed everything. "Because that isn't a key." Rowan frowned. "Then what is it?" The lantern light flickered. Shadows danced across the ruins, and somewhere far away, deep beneath the earth, a massive metallic sound echoed through the darkness, as if an enormous door had just begun to open. Lyra stared at the silver object in Rowan's hand. Fear filled her eyes. "That's the last map of ashes." Chapter 3. The Last Map of Ashes. The metallic echo rolled through the underground city. Once, twice. Then silence returned. No one spoke. Lyra stared at the silver object in Rowan's hand. Jace finally broke the silence. That's a map? Lyra nodded. A living map. Rowan looked down at the object. It still appeared to be nothing more than an ornate silver key. You're telling me this thing is famous? Lyra laughed nervously. Famous? No, most people think it doesn't exist. Then how do you know about it? Lyra hesitated. That hesitation told Rowan she was deciding how much truth to reveal. Finally, she sighed. Because I've spent 6 years studying forbidden records. Jace blinked. Forbidden? Very forbidden. Lyra sat beside the broken fountain. Her eyes never left the silver object. The last map of ashes appears in a handful of surviving Aurel texts. Most references were destroyed centuries ago. Destroyed by who? Rowan asked. The kings. That answer surprised both men. Lyra continued. Every kingdom teaches the same version of history. Aurel was destroyed by a magical disaster. End of story. And that's a lie? It's incomplete. Rowan felt a chill. What really happened? Lyra looked toward the distant tower rising above the ruins. I don't know. The honesty in her voice was undeniable. But someone has spent 1,000 years making sure nobody finds out. A distant rumble shook the ground. Dust drifted from nearby buildings. The sound came from somewhere deep beneath the city. Something moving. Something enormous. Jace looked around nervously. Please tell me underground earthquakes are normal. No, Lyra said. They aren't. They resumed their journey. The glowing path projected by the map continued toward the towering structure ahead. The closer they came, the more signs of life appeared. Not recent life, ancient life. Abandoned camps, broken tools, collapsed excavation sites, evidence that others had searched these ruins before them. Rowan stopped beside a rusted lantern. Someone's been here. Lyra nodded. Many people. What happened to them? Lyra did not answer. That worried him more than any explanation. Hours later, they reached a wide stone bridge. The bridge stretched over a black chasm. No bottom was visible. The glowing path crossed directly over it. Jace looked down, then immediately stepped back. No. Rowan frowned. No? No. The path goes this way. I understand that. Jace pointed into the abyss. And I would like to continue being alive. Before Rowan could respond, a voice echoed from behind them. You won't have to worry about that much longer. All three froze. A group of black-cloaked figures emerged from the shadows. At least 20. Ash Order. They had somehow found them. At their center stood the ancient man Rowan had seen inside the courier hall. Lord Malvek. His gray eyes reflected no emotion. Only certainty. Only patience. As though this moment had always been inevitable. Rowan felt fear twist inside his chest. Malvek studied him, then smiled. Hello, Rowan. The familiarity in his tone unsettled him. We've never met, Rowan said. Malvek's smile widened. Not in this lifetime. Silence followed. Jace whispered, I really hate when mysterious people say things like that. Lyra stepped forward. To Rowan's surprise, Malvek immediately recognized her. Scholar Thorn. Lyra's expression hardened. Malvek! The old man inclined his head slightly. Still chasing dangerous truths? Still murdering anyone who finds them? The Ash Order members shifted uneasily. Malvek showed no reaction. I preserve the world. You bury it. Because some doors should remain closed. The metallic rumble echoed again. Louder this time. The bridge beneath them vibrated. Far below, something awakened. Something vast. For the first time, genuine concern appeared in Malvek's eyes. Only for a second. But Rowan noticed. And if Malvek was worried, everyone should be worried. The ancient sorcerer extended his hand. "Give me the map." "No," Rowan said. "Then you leave me no choice." Gray ash began rising from the ground around Malvek. The particles floated upward like smoke. Lyra immediately backed away. "Run!" Rowan frowned. "What is that?" "Ash magic." The words carried genuine fear. Jace swallowed. "Is that bad?" Lyra stared at him. "Very bad." The ash gathered around Malvek's arm. Shapes formed within it. Faces, hundreds of faces, men, women, children, all screaming silently. Rowan felt sick. "What is that?" Malvek answered himself. "Memories." The ash swirled faster. "I have sacrificed much for this world." The faces vanished. A blade formed from solid gray dust. Its edge shimmered unnaturally. Lyra's face turned pale. "He traded memories for power." "That's impossible," Rowan said. "Not impossible." Malvek took a step forward. "Forbidden." The bridge suddenly shook violently. A deafening roar erupted from below. The entire chasm trembled. Everyone stumbled. Chunks of stone broke away and vanished into darkness. Then something emerged. A massive golden eye opened beneath the bridge. The eye alone was larger than a house. Every person froze, even Malvek. The creature looked upward, ancient, intelligent, awake. Its pupil narrowed, fixing directly on Rowan. Not Malvek, not Lyra, Rowan. The map in Rowan's hand burst with silver light. Symbols exploded across its surface. For the first time, the object changed shape. The silver metal unfolded, expanded, transformed. A glowing map appeared in the air above Rowan's palm. An entire continent made of light. Mountains, cities, rivers, ancient roads, places that did not exist on any modern map. And at the very center of the projection appeared a single symbol. A crown surrounded by fire. Every Aurel ruin across the continent suddenly illuminated on the map. Hundreds of locations, thousands, a hidden network, an entire lost civilization. The truth no one was supposed to find. Malvek's calm expression finally shattered. For the first time, he looked afraid. "Impossible." Lyra stared at the projection. Her voice barely emerged as a whisper. "Oh no." Rowan looked at her. "What?" Lyra pointed toward the glowing crown. Terror filled her eyes. "The map isn't showing where Aurel died." The giant eye beneath the bridge continued staring upward, watching, waiting, as if it already knew what came next. Lyra's voice trembled. "It's showing where Aurel survived." Chapter 4. The City That Should Not Exist. The words hung in the air. It's showing where Aurel survived. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. The glowing map floated above Rowan's hand, illuminating the bridge in silver light. Ancient roads stretched across the projection. Hidden settlements appeared beneath mountains, beneath oceans, inside deserts. Entire regions erased from recorded history. The giant eye beneath the bridge remained fixed on Rowan, watching, waiting. Lord Malvek stared at the map with visible horror. For the first time since Rowan had met him, the immortal sorcerer looked uncertain, and that terrified Rowan more than anything else. The creature below shifted. The bridge shook violently. Stone cracked beneath their feet. Jace nearly lost his balance. "We need to leave." Nobody argued. The enormous eye slowly disappeared into the darkness below. But the feeling of being watched remained, as if the creature was still there, just out of sight. Malvek raised his ash blade. "Give me the map." Rowan backed away. "No." The sorcerer's expression hardened. "You do not understand what you carry." "Then explain it." Malvek hesitated, only briefly. Then he lowered the blade. To Rowan's surprise, to everyone's surprise. "Very well. Silence filled the bridge. The Ash Order members exchanged confused looks. Their leader rarely explained anything. Malvek turned toward the glowing projection. 1,000 years ago, Aurel achieved something humanity was never meant to possess. What? Rowan asked. Malvek's eyes remained fixed on the map. Immortality. The word hit like a hammer. Jace laughed nervously. No. Malvek ignored him. They learned how to escape death. Lyra's face turned pale. You found proof. Malvek nodded. We all did. Who is we? The old sorcerer looked suddenly tired, older than before. Much older. The people who survived. Before anyone could ask another question, a sharp sound echoed through the cavern. A whistle, then another, then dozens more. Every head turned upward. Figures appeared on rooftops across the ancient city. Archers, hundreds of them. Not Ash Order, not soldiers. Something else. Their armor was dark green. Their cloaks blended perfectly with the ruins. A woman stepped onto a nearby rooftop. Her red hair flowed behind her. A curved sword rested at her hip. She looked directly at Rowan, then at the floating map. A grin spread across her face. There it is. Malvek cursed. The first time Rowan had heard genuine anger in his voice. No. The red-haired woman laughed. Oh, yes. Chaos erupted. Arrows rained down from every direction. Ash Order members fell instantly. The bridge became a battlefield. Malvek raised a wall of swirling ash. Dozens of arrows disintegrated before reaching him. Lyra grabbed Rowan's arm. Move! They ran. Jace followed. The mysterious archers continued attacking both sides. No distinction, no mercy, just destruction. The red-haired woman leaped from the rooftop. She landed directly in front of them. Impossible. The drop should have killed her. Instead, she stood effortlessly, smiling. Her eyes glowed faintly silver. Not natural, not human. At least not entirely. She pointed at Rowan. You have something I need. Rowan held up the map. You and everyone else. The woman laughed. I like him. Jace whispered. This feels like a bad time to make friends. I agree, Rowan whispered back. The woman bowed dramatically. My name is Talia Voss. Wonderful. Talia grinned. Most people say that after they survive meeting me. I'm guessing many don't. Correct. She pointed toward the floating map. The crown path has awakened. Lyra froze. The what? Talia's smile vanished. You know that name? Lyra swallowed. Barely. The red-haired warrior suddenly looked concerned. Very concerned. That was not reassuring. Another violent rumble shook the city. The giant creature below roared again. This time much closer. Stone shattered somewhere beneath them. The entire underground city trembled. Talia looked downward. Oh, what? Rowan asked. That's significantly worse than I expected. What is? Talia looked directly at him. The Guardian woke up. Something massive burst from the side of the chasm. A gigantic claw slammed into the bridge. Stone exploded. People screamed. The bridge split in half. Ash Order soldiers plunged into darkness. The creature emerged further. Golden scales, towering limbs. Ancient armor fused into its skin. Its body was larger than a castle. Every movement shook the city. Rowan stared in disbelief. Dragons existed only in stories. This creature looked older than dragons, older than kingdoms, older than history itself. A single word appeared in Rowan's mind. Guardian. The beast's enormous eye focused directly on the map. Not Rowan, not Malvek. The map. It roared. The sound rattled every bone in Rowan's body. Then something impossible happened. The creature spoke, not aloud, inside their minds. One voice. ancient beyond comprehension. The heir has returned. Everyone froze. Rowan felt ice spread through his veins. The voice continued. The doors shall open once more. Malvek looked horrified, truly horrified. Impossible. The creature's eyes shifted toward him. You failed, Ash Keeper. For the first time in 1,000 years, Lord Malvek took a step backward. The Guardian turned its gaze back to Rowan. Ancient memories flashed through Rowan's mind. Golden cities, flying ships, towering gates, millions of people, a world unlike anything he had ever imagined. The visions lasted only seconds, but when they ended, Rowan collapsed to one knee, breathing hard, terrified, because one image remained, one image clearer than all the others, a young boy standing inside a golden palace, looking out across the greatest city ever built. The boy turned, looked directly at Rowan, and wore Rowan's face. The Guardian spoke again. Find the first gate. The floating map changed. The glowing continent shifted. Ancient roads rearranged themselves. A single destination illuminated, far to the north, beyond kingdoms, beyond known lands. A place marked with a symbol identical to the one from Rowan's dreams. Talia stared at it. No. Lyra stared at it. No. Even Malvek looked shaken. What is it? Rowan asked. Nobody answered. The silence itself became terrifying. Finally, Lyra spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. That's not possible. What isn't? She pointed at the destination glowing on the map. Fear filled her eyes. The first gate was destroyed 1,000 years ago. The Guardian's eye narrowed. Ancient amusement flickered within it. Then the creature delivered words that changed everything. That is what they wanted you to believe. Chapter 5. The First Gate. The Guardian's words echoed through every mind. That is what they wanted you to believe. Then the colossal creature withdrew. Its enormous body disappeared into the darkness beneath the city. The tremors slowly faded. Silence followed. A heavy, uncomfortable silence. Nobody knew what to say. Because if the Guardian was telling the truth, then 1,000 years of history had just become a lie. The floating map remained suspended above Rowan's hand. The glowing destination pulsed steadily. North. Far beyond the borders of every known kingdom, far beyond civilization, toward a place nobody should have been able to reach. Talia stared at the map. Her usual confidence was gone. That's impossible. You keep saying that, Jace said, because impossible things keep happening. Jace considered this. Fair point. Across the shattered bridge, Lord Malvek stood motionless. The Ash Order survivors regrouped around him. For a long moment, the immortal sorcerer simply watched Rowan, not with hatred, not even with anger, with concern. That disturbed Rowan more than any threat. Finally, Malvek spoke. Listen carefully. Rowan frowned. Why would I? Because I'm trying to save your life. Talia laughed. That's rich. Malvek ignored her. His gray eyes remained fixed on Rowan. The first gate must never open. Why? You won't survive the answer. Rowan took a step forward. Try me. For several seconds, Malvek remained silent. Then he sighed. As you wish. The old sorcerer raised one hand. Ash swirled around him. The gray particles formed images in the air. Memories. Living memories. A city appeared. Golden towers rose toward the sky. Flying vessels crossed brilliant blue horizons. Millions of people walked shining streets. Aurel. The lost civilization. Not ruined. Alive. Beautiful. Perfect. Jace stared in awe. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She had spent her life searching for proof. Now it floated before her. Real. Undeniable. The vision changed. Darkness spread across the city. A massive structure appeared at its center. A gate, hundreds of feet tall, made from silver metal, covered in glowing symbols. The exact same symbols that appeared on Rowan's map. The first gate. Thousands gathered around it, celebrating, cheering, waiting. Then the gate opened, and everything changed. The memory became distorted, violent, chaotic. People screamed, buildings collapsed, the sky itself seemed to tear apart. A black storm poured through the gate. Not wind, not rain, something worse. Shadows, countless shadows. They moved like living smoke, touching people, consuming them. Entire streets vanished, entire districts disappeared, millions died. The golden city burned, the vision shattered. The ash dissolved, the memory ended, silence returned. Nobody spoke, nobody could. Finally Rowan found his voice. What were those things? Malvek's expression darkened. We never learned. You survived. Yes. How? The old man looked away. That answer clearly carried pain. 1,000 years of pain. Talia crossed her arms. If that's true, why hide the truth? Because humanity is predictable. Malvek looked toward the glowing map. Tell people there is an ancient civilization waiting beyond the horizon, and they will seek it. Maybe they should. No. The single word carried absolute certainty. If the gates open again, history will repeat itself. Lyra stepped forward. You don't know that. Malvek looked at her. I do. You can't. I was there. The scholar fell silent. The weight of those words settled over everyone. Not a survivor's story. Not a legend. A witness. Malvek had actually seen it happen. A distant horn suddenly echoed through the ruins. Everyone turned. More figures appeared throughout the city. Not Ash Order, not Talia's people. Soldiers, hundreds of them. Royal soldiers, Valeri's soldiers. Their banners fluttered above the rooftops. At their center rode a familiar figure. Kyle Arden, former captain of the King's Guard. Kyle dismounted before reaching the broken bridge. His armor was scarred from travel. His face looked exhausted, but his eyes remained sharp. He immediately spotted Rowan. Relief crossed his features. Then he noticed the floating map. The relief vanished. Oh no. Rowan blinked. Why does everyone react like that? Kyle sighed. Because every powerful person in the world has been searching for that map. The captain crossed the bridge carefully. His hand remained near his sword, not threatening, prepared, as if danger followed him everywhere, which Rowan suspected it probably did. Kyle stopped several feet away. The king sent me. To arrest me? To protect you. Nobody looked convinced. Kyle noticed. I expected that reaction. Before anyone could continue, another rider emerged from the soldiers. A woman wearing royal blue robes. Her dark hair was tied behind her head. Silver markings glowed faintly along her skin. A mage. The moment she saw Rowan's map, her expression changed. Fear, recognition, then disbelief. She stepped closer, much closer than anyone else dared. Her eyes widened. No. Rowan frowned. What? The mage looked directly at him. That's impossible. Could someone please explain instead of saying impossible? The woman ignored him. Her gaze remained locked on the map. Then she whispered something that made Lyra go pale. The map is responding to his blood. Everyone froze, even Malvek. The mage slowly looked up. What is your full name? Rowan Vale. The woman shook her head. No. What? Your real name. Confusion spread through the group. I don't know what you're talking about. The mage looked terrified. Absolutely terrified. As if she had just discovered something she wished she hadn't. Kyle stepped forward. What did you see? The woman swallowed, then answered. When the map activated, it revealed an ownership seal. Silence. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The mage's voice trembled. There has only ever been one bloodline capable of controlling the last map of ashes. Rowan felt his heart pounding. The map suddenly pulsed. Silver light raced across its surface. Ancient symbols appeared around him. A crown, a flame, a circle. The same symbols from his dreams. The same symbols from the Guardian's vision. The mage stared at them, then at Rowan, and finally spoke the words nobody was prepared to hear. Rowan Vale isn't the map's owner. The air itself seemed to stop. What do you mean? Rowan asked. The mage's face had become completely pale. Because according to every surviving Aurel record, she looked directly into his eyes. The rightful owner died 1,000 years ago. Chapter 6. The name beneath the name. The word struck Rowan harder than any blade. The rightful owner died 1,000 years ago. Silence spread across the ruins. Even the soldiers seemed afraid to move. The floating map hovered above Rowan's hand, casting silver light across the broken bridge. Kyle looked at the royal mage. Explain. The woman swallowed. I wish I could. Try. She took a slow breath. My name is Mira Sol. Rowan immediately recognized the name. One of the youngest resonance mages ever accepted into the Royal Academy. A prodigy, or so the stories claimed. At that moment she looked anything but confident. Mira pointed toward the map. When an Aurel artifact awakens, it identifies its owner. And? Rowan asked. And the name it displayed wasn't Rowan Vale. A chill ran through him. What name did it display? Mira hesitated, as if saying it aloud might cause something terrible to happen. Finally she answered. Aren Solis. The name meant nothing to Rowan. Yet the instant he heard it, pain exploded inside his head. Visions flooded his mind. A golden city, towering gates, a palace made of crystal and silver, crowds cheering, banners waving in the wind, and a voice, a familiar voice, his own, only older, stronger, confident. The gates will change everything. The vision vanished. Rowan staggered. Kyle caught him before he fell. You okay? No. The answer came immediately, because he definitely was not okay. Far across the bridge, Lord Malvec closed his eyes. For the first time since Rowan had met him, genuine sadness appeared on the immortal's face. Aren Solis! The old sorcerer spoke the name like a memory, like a wound. Talia looked at him. You know who that is. Malvec opened his eyes. Yes. The silence that followed felt endless. Finally, Lyra stepped forward. Tell us. Malvec stared at Rowan, then nodded. Aren Solis was the last crown heir of Aurel. Nobody spoke, nobody could. The words felt too large, too impossible. Jace finally found his voice. Hold on. Everyone looked at him. Jace pointed at Rowan. You're telling me my best friend is secretly a dead prince from a civilization that vanished 1,000 years ago? Malvec considered it. When you say it that way, it does sound ridiculous. Because it is ridiculous. Yet it remains true. Rowan felt sick. Every answer created 10 new questions. If Aren was real, Malvec nodded. He was. And if he died, he did. Then how am I standing here? The immortal sorcerer looked away. I don't know. The honesty surprised everyone, especially Rowan. A sudden pulse erupted from the map. Silver light spread across the ruins. The projection shifted. The glowing route toward the first gate disappeared. A new image appeared. A face. A woman. Young. Dark-haired, crowned in silver. Her eyes seemed almost alive. Lyra gasped. No. What? Rowan asked. Lyra stared at the image. That's Empress Selene. The name carried weight. Ancient weight. Even Rowan recognized it. Every child in Ilara knew the legends. The final ruler of Aurel. The woman blamed for causing the ashfall. The image moved. Actually moved. The woman looked directly at Rowan. Across 1,000 years. Across impossible distances. Then she spoke. At last. Everyone froze. The recording felt real. Far too real. The woman's eyes filled with relief. If you're seeing this, then the first gate remains sealed. Malvek's face darkened immediately. He knew what was coming. The image continued. My name is Selene Solis. The Empress paused, and for the first time Rowan noticed something strange. She looked familiar. Not slightly familiar, deeply familiar. The shape of her eyes, the curve of her smile, the way she held herself. It felt like looking at family. Selene continued. The world you know was built upon a lie. The ruins fell silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. We did not destroy ourselves. Shock rippled through the group. Lyra stared in disbelief. Malvek closed his eyes, as though he had hoped never to hear those words again. We were betrayed. The Empress's voice hardened. The gates were opened by those who feared what humanity would become. Mira stepped backward. No. Selene continued speaking. They called themselves guardians. The guardian. The creature beneath the city. Rowan immediately thought of it. And judging by everyone's expressions, so did they. Malvek stepped forward. No. The word came out almost desperate. The recording ignored him. They believed humanity was becoming too powerful. The Empress looked directly at Rowan. So they chose extinction. The projection flickered. Ancient damage distorted the image, but Selene's next words remained clear, painfully clear. Aren. Rowan's breath caught. The Empress wasn't addressing a future audience anymore. She was addressing one person, one specific person, him. If you survived, tears filled her eyes. Then I'm sorry. The entire group stood frozen, listening, watching, unable to look away. The burden should never have fallen to you. Silver light trembled around the projection. The image became unstable. Time was running out. Selene knew it. Everyone knew it. She leaned forward, as if trying to reach through history itself. Aren, listen carefully. The map pulsed. The symbols around Rowan brightened. Far beneath the city, the Guardian roared. The sound echoed through every tunnel, every ruin, every forgotten chamber, as if it sensed what was about to be revealed. Selene's expression became urgent. The first gate is not the danger. Everyone froze, even Malvek. Especially Malvek. The Empress took one final breath, then spoke the words that shattered everything they thought they knew. The second gate is already open. The recording vanished. Darkness returned. Silence followed. A terrible silence. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Because somewhere in the world, a gate that should not exist, a gate nobody even knew about, was already open. Chapter 7. The gate already open. For several seconds, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The words echoed through Rowan's mind. The second gate is already open. The ancient recording had vanished. The silver map hovered silently above his hand, yet the feeling remained. A warning sent across 1,000 years, a warning that had reached them far too late. The first person to react was Malvek. No. The word emerged as a whisper. Not anger, not denial. Fear, real fear. The immortal sorcerer staggered backward, as if someone had struck him. Lyra noticed immediately. You believe her? Malvek remained silent, That silence was answer enough. Talia slowly drew her sword. Metal sang softly through the cavern. "Start talking." Malvek looked toward the northern marker glowing on the map. "The second gate cannot be open." "Why?" Rowan asked. The old sorcerer's eyes darkened. "Because if it is—" He stopped. For perhaps the first time in 1,000 years, Malvek seemed unsure whether to continue. Kale stepped forward. "If it is what?" Malvek finally answered. "Then someone won." Nobody liked that answer, especially Rowan. "Won what?" Malvek looked directly at him. "The war." A cold silence followed. "The Ashfall wasn't a single disaster," Malvek continued. "It was a war." Lyra's face drained of color. "Aurel fought someone." Malvek nodded. "Yes. Who?" The immortal's answer came immediately. "Ourselves." The words made no sense. At least not at first. Then Rowan remembered Celine's message. They called themselves Guardians. The Guardian beneath the city. The people who opened the gates. The people who believed humanity had become too powerful. A terrible possibility formed in his mind. "You mean Aurel split apart?" Malvek nodded. There were two factions. The Crown and the Wardens. The name felt ancient, dangerous, forgotten. Mira crossed her arms. "The Wardens became the Guardians?" "Eventually." Malvek stared into the darkness. They believed humanity was moving too quickly. "Toward what?" Kale asked. The old sorcerer's expression tightened. "Godhood." Nobody laughed, because he wasn't joking. Malvek continued. Aurel discovered ways to reshape life itself. The map pulsed. Ancient symbols drifted through the air, as though responding to his words. They cured disease. They ended famine. They extended life. They altered memory. They created living cities. Lyra whispered, "Impossible." It happened. The immortal's voice remained calm. They believed there was no limit. Jace finally spoke, and the Wardens disagreed. Malvek nodded. They believed some knowledge should remain forbidden. What happened? The old sorcerer's eyes became distant, as though he were looking through centuries. They lost. Silence. Then Malvek added, "So they opened the gates." The realization hit everyone simultaneously. The shadows, the catastrophe, the destruction. The Wardens had caused it, not by accident, on purpose. Before anyone could speak, the map suddenly flashed. Bright silver light exploded outward. Rowan cried out. Pain tore through his head. Memories surged through him. Not his memories, someone else's. A golden training yard, children practicing sword forms, teachers observing from stone balconies. A boy stood among them. Dark hair, gray eyes, 16 years old. Aaron Solis, the crown heir. The vision sharpened. Aaron turned and looked directly at Rowan. For a moment, Rowan felt impossible confusion, because Aaron wasn't seeing him. He was remembering something. The memory belonged to him, and yet it didn't. A woman's voice echoed nearby. "Aaron!" The young prince turned. Celine approached, not as an empress, as a mother, smiling, proud, alive. The memory shifted. Darkness, panic, running, screams, the city burning, the gates opening, the sky breaking apart. Aaron standing before a circle of silver light. Scientists, mages, soldiers, all shouting at once. Then one phrase emerged clearly. A sentence spoken by an old man, a sentence directed at Aaron, a sentence Rowan heard perfectly. "You must survive." The vision shattered. Rowan collapsed to one knee, breathing hard. The ruins spun around him. Kyle immediately knelt beside him. "What happened?" Rowan looked up slowly. His heart raced. His hands trembled. "I saw him. Silence. Him who? Lyra asked. Aren. Nobody spoke, because everyone understood the implication. If the visions were real, then Rowan wasn't simply connected to Aren. Somehow, he was remembering Aren's life. Far above, a distant horn sounded. Everyone looked up. Another horn answered, then another. Different directions, different locations. The signals spread throughout the underground city. Talia cursed. That's bad. What is? Jace asked. Very bad. One of her scouts appeared on a nearby rooftop. The man slid down broken stone and landed beside her. His face looked pale, terrified. Talia, what happened? The scout swallowed. We found another entrance. To the city. The scout shook his head. No. Everyone went silent. To what then? Kyle asked. The scout looked toward the north, toward the glowing marker on the map. His voice trembled. We found a gate. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Malvek stepped forward immediately. Impossible. The scout nodded nervously. We thought so too. Where? The scout pointed. 3 miles north. The immortal's face became completely expressionless, which somehow looked worse than fear. Rowan felt his stomach tighten. How can there be a gate here? The scout answered before anyone else could. Because it wasn't buried. Silence. Then he added, it was built recently. The implications hit like a hammer. Not ancient, not forgotten, recent. Someone had built a gate, recently, in secret. The map pulsed again. The northern marker brightened, almost as if confirming the report, or guiding them toward it. Mira stared at the projection. Then her eyes widened. No! Kyle turned toward her. What? The young mage pointed toward a series of symbols appearing around the marker. Ancient symbols, Aurelian symbols, the same language carved throughout the ruins. Lyra translated first. Her voice shook. There are coordinates. For what? Rowan asked. Lyra looked horrified. Absolutely horrified. The marker isn't showing the first gate anymore. The air grew very still, very cold. What is it showing? Rowan asked. Lyra swallowed, then answered, it's showing the location of the person who opened the second gate. Silence. The map pulsed once more. A name appeared above the coordinates. Ancient silver letters, bright as moonlight, visible to everyone. Malvek stared at the name. His face turned pale. For the first time since Rowan had met him, the immortal looked completely stunned. No. The word escaped him. Barely audible. Rowan looked at the glowing text. The symbols meant nothing to him, but Lyra could read them, and judging by her expression, she wished she couldn't. What does it say? Rowan asked. Lyra stared at the name, then slowly looked toward Malvek. Disbelief filled her eyes, fear, confusion, and something even worse. Recognition. Finally she spoke. The words landed like thunder. The person who opened the second gate. She paused, unable to believe what she was reading, then forced herself to continue. Is Lord Malvek. Chapter 8. The Ashkeeper's Secret. The world seemed to stop. No one spoke. No one moved. The glowing letters hovered above the map, bright, unmistakable. Ancient silver symbols spelling a single name, Malvek. The silence stretched, then shattered. That's impossible, Kyle said. Talia laughed once. A hard, humorless laugh. Actually, that's the least surprising thing I've heard all week. Every weapon in the area suddenly pointed toward the immortal sorcerer. Ash Order members raised their blades. Royal soldiers raised spears. Talia's scouts knocked arrows. Nobody knew who to trust anymore. Malvek simply stared at the name, as though seeing it for the first time, as though he wished he wasn't. Then he closed his eyes. 1,000 years of exhaustion settled across his face. When he opened them again, he looked older, much older. Lyra took a careful step forward. "Tell us." The scholar's voice remained steady, though Rowan could hear the fear underneath. "Tell us the truth." Malvek remained silent. The map pulsed again. The silver name remained unchanged. No mistake, no mistranslation, no misunderstanding. The map was certain. The one who opened the second gate was Malvek. Finally, the immortal spoke. Yes. The single word hit harder than any denial could have. Nobody moved, nobody breathed, because confirmation was somehow worse. Jay stared at him. "You did it?" Malvek nodded. "Yes." "You opened the gate?" "Yes." "You caused all this?" "No." The answer came immediately. Sharp, absolute. For the first time, anger entered the immortal's voice. Kyle stepped forward. "Explain." Malvek looked toward the northern marker, toward the distant destination, toward whatever waited beyond it. Then he sighed. "I didn't open the gate." Silence. "You just admitted you did." "I activated it." "That's the same thing." "No." The immortal shook his head. "It isn't." Mira crossed her arms. "Then what's the difference?" Malvek's expression darkened. The second gate was already opening. The ruins fell silent. Even the wind seemed to pause. "Someone started the process." "Who?" Rowan asked. The immortal looked directly at him. "I don't know." Nobody liked that answer. Not even a little. "The gate remained dormant for centuries," Malvek continued. "Then 20 years ago it began awakening." Rowan frowned. 20 years. Exactly 20 years. The same age as... His thoughts stopped. A terrible suspicion formed. Malvek noticed. The immortal's eyes narrowed. He understood what Rowan had realized. And that frightened Rowan more than anything else. You noticed the timing. The statement wasn't a question. Rowan swallowed. "What happened 20 years ago?" Malvek hesitated, then answered, "You were born." Silence. Absolute silence. Jace looked ready to faint. Lyra looked ready to argue. Kale looked ready to draw his sword. Nobody seemed happy with the direction this conversation was taking. "You're saying I caused this?" Rowan asked. "No." Malvek's answer came immediately. "I'm saying your birth and the gate's awakening happened at exactly the same time." The implication hung heavily in the air. Before anyone could continue, the map suddenly erupted with light. Far brighter than before, silver energy shot into the sky above the ruins. A beam, a signal, visible for miles, visible for everyone. Malvek cursed. Actually cursed. That alone was alarming. "What happened?" Kyle demanded. Lyra stared upward, her face pale. "The map just announced its location." Nobody liked that answer. A distant horn echoed, then another, then dozens. Not from nearby, from all directions, across the underground city, across the surface, across the kingdom. Talia slowly looked around. "How many people do you think saw that?" Lyra answered immediately. "Too many." A deep rumble shook the ground. Different from the Guardian, different from the gate. This came from above, from the surface. One of Talia's scouts sprinted into the square. Panic filled his face. "Talia!" "What now?" The scout pointed upward, his hand shaking. "Armies." Silence. "What armies?" Kyle asked. The scout swallowed. "All of them." Nobody understood. Not immediately. Then the scout continued. "The northern kingdoms, the Eastern Alliance, the desert clans, the Empire, Every major power in Alara. Every one, moving at once. Kyle stared at him. That's impossible. The scout nodded. I know. The realization slowly spread through the group. The signal, the map, the hidden city, the gates. Somehow the entire world had learned something, and they were responding. Fast. Mira looked horrified. They're all coming here. Lyra shook her head. No. Everyone turned toward her. The scholar looked even more frightened than before. They aren't coming here. What do you mean? Rowan asked. Lyra pointed toward the northern marker, toward the location identified by the map, toward the place where the second gate was opening. They're racing there. Silence followed, because everyone understood what that meant. The world wasn't preparing for war. The world was already at war. They just hadn't known it yet. A new voice suddenly echoed across the ruins, female, calm, ancient, not spoken aloud, inside their minds, the same way the Guardian had spoken. At last. Everyone froze. The voice continued, beautiful, cold, impossible. The pieces are moving. Rowan felt ice crawl down his spine. The voice felt familiar, dangerously familiar, as though he had heard it before. In a dream, in a memory, in another life. Silver light flickered across the map. A face slowly appeared above the projection. A woman's face. Unknown, elegant, terrifying. Her eyes glowed silver, just like the map, just like the gates. Every person present reacted differently. Confusion, fear, shock, recognition. Malvek's reaction was the worst. The immortal sorcerer went completely still, like a man seeing a ghost. No. The word escaped him, barely audible. The woman smiled, not kindly, not cruelly, patiently, as though she had waited a very long time for this moment. Then she spoke, and the impossible became even more impossible. Hello, Rowan. The woman looked directly at him. My son. Chapter 9. The Woman in the Silver Light. The ruins fell silent. Not ordinary silence, the kind that follows a thunderclap, the kind that arrives when reality suddenly stops making sense. The woman hovered above the map, made of silver light, beautiful, ageless, terrifying, and she had just called Rowan her son. No. The word escaped Rowan before he could stop it. The woman smiled sadly. I expected that reaction. Jace looked between them, then back again, then once more. Finally, he threw his hands into the air. No. Everyone turned toward him. Jace pointed at the projection. We already learned he's apparently a dead prince from 1,000 years ago. He pointed at Rowan. That was difficult enough. Then he pointed back at the woman. And now his mother is calling from a magical hologram. Nobody answered, because nobody knew how. The woman studied Rowan carefully, as though memorizing him, as though she had missed him. For the first time in a long time, Rowan felt genuinely afraid, not because of her, because of the strange feeling growing inside him. Recognition. He knew her. Impossible, yet true. The woman's eyes softened. You remember? Rowan froze. The word struck far too close. What are you? He asked. The woman's expression changed. Pain crossed her face. Deep pain. Ancient pain. That is a complicated question. Malvek suddenly stepped forward, more aggressively than Rowan had ever seen. Stop! The immortal's voice echoed through the ruins. The woman looked at him. Amusement appeared in her eyes. Hello, Malvek. The old sorcerer's face darkened. You should be dead. The woman smiled. So should you. Nobody liked that exchange, not even a little. Lyra stepped forward. Who is she? The scholar's voice trembled. The woman looked toward her. My name is Selena Solis. Silence. Absolute silence. Mira took a step backward. No. Lyra looked equally stunned. That's impossible. Rowan's heart pounded, because he recognized that name, the recording, the Empress, the woman who had warned them about the second gate. But this wasn't a recording. This was something else. Something alive. The woman nodded. Yes. She looked directly at Rowan. I am your mother. The words hit harder than before, because now there was a name attached, a history, a face. No, Rowan said again. You died. The woman smiled sadly. Most people believe that. Malvek drew his ash blade. Immediately. No hesitation, no warning. Don't listen to her. The command echoed through the cavern. Celine's expression hardened. Still lying after all these years? The temperature seemed to drop. Everyone could feel it. The hatred between them. Ancient hatred. Personal hatred. You destroyed everything, Malvek said. Celine laughed. A cold laugh, a dangerous laugh. No. She looked directly at him. You did. The ruins trembled. Not from magic, not from the Guardian. From emotion, from memories, from truths buried for 1,000 years. Rowan stepped between them. Enough. Both ancient figures fell silent. Both looked at him. Someone tell me the truth. The request hung in the air. For a moment neither answered. Then Celine spoke. The gates were never weapons. Silence. The wardens lied. She looked directly at Malvek. They always lied. Malvek's expression remained unreadable. The gates were designed to connect worlds. The silver projection shifted. Images appeared around her. Stars, thousands of stars, entire galaxies. They allowed travel. The images changed. Cities among the stars. Civilizations beyond imagination. Worlds connected by silver pathways. Everyone stared, speechless. The first gate connected our world to others, Celine continued. The second gate connected time itself. Nobody understood. Mira frowned. What does that mean? The Empress looked toward Rowan. Only Rowan. It means your existence should be impossible. A chill spread through the group. Celine raised her hand. The images shifted again. Aurel, the final days, the city burning, the sky collapsing. A young Aaron stood inside a chamber filled with silver light. Scientists surrounded him, mages, engineers, soldiers. Everyone was desperate, terrified, running out of time. Then Rowan saw something impossible. The young prince stepped into a silver circle. A gate. Not the first gate, not the second gate. Something else. A smaller gate, a hidden gate. The third gate. Celine's voice softened. Malvek closed his eyes, as though he already knew where this was going. The final gate. The image continued. Aaron looked afraid. Young. Human. Not a hero, not a legend. Just a frightened boy. Then the gate activated. Silver light engulfed him. The image shattered. Celine looked directly at Rowan. Tears filled her eyes. You didn't survive the ashfall. The words struck like lightning. You escaped it. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The third gate sent you forward. The ruins felt suddenly very small, very fragile. 1,000 years forward. Rowan's knees nearly gave out. The impossible memories, the visions, the map, the Guardian, everything suddenly fit together. He wasn't Aaron reborn. He wasn't a descendant. He wasn't a reincarnation. He was Aaron. The same person, moved through time, hidden, waiting, protected. The realization hit like a tidal wave. Jay sat down abruptly. I need a minute. Nobody blamed him. Celine smiled sadly. We saved one life. She looked at Rowan. Yours. A deep rumble suddenly echoed across the underground city, louder than anything before. The map flashed violently. Every symbol turned red. Not silver, red. Malvec's face immediately changed. Fear. Pure fear. Impossible. The map projected a new image. Not a location. Not a person. A gate. Open. Active. And something was coming through. Something enormous. Something alive. Ancient text appeared beneath the image. Glowing crimson. Lyra translated automatically. Her voice barely worked. No. What? Rowan asked. The scholar stared at the words. Horror filled her eyes. Then she whispered the translation. The second gate has completed activation. Silence. The red image expanded. A shadow appeared beyond the gate, larger than mountains, larger than cities. Watching, waiting. Awake. Then a final line of text appeared beneath the first. A warning, or perhaps a countdown. Lyra read it aloud. The Harbinger has arrived. Chapter 10. The Harbinger. The words echoed through the underground city. The Harbinger has arrived. No one spoke. No one moved. The crimson projection floated above the map like a wound in the air. Beyond the open gate stood a shadow so vast that the human mind struggled to understand it. Mountains looked small beside it. Cities would be insignificant, kingdoms meaningless. Jace slowly stood, then immediately sat back down. No, nobody disagreed. The shadow shifted, only slightly, yet the movement caused the image itself to distort, as though reality struggled to contain whatever was beyond the gate. Mira stared at the projection. Her face had become completely pale. I can feel it. Kyle looked toward her. Feel what? The young mage swallowed. The resonance. A cold silence followed. It's wrong. Mira's voice trembled. Everything about it is wrong. The map suddenly emitted a sharp pulse. A wave of silver energy expanded through the ruins. The crimson image flickered. For a brief moment, the shadow became clearer. Rowan wished it hadn't. It had eyes, thousands of them, opening and closing across a shape that refused to remain constant. A creature, a force, a living impossibility. Then the image stabilized. The details vanished. Only the silhouette remained. Talia lowered her sword, for perhaps the first time in her life, not because she was calm, because she understood a sword would be useless. Malvec stared at the projection. His expression had become grim, determined, resigned. He shouldn't be here. The immortal's words barely rose above a whisper. Celine immediately turned toward him. You know what it is. Not a question, a statement. Malvec nodded. Once. Slowly. What is the Harbinger? Rowan asked. Neither ancient survivor answered immediately. That hesitation frightened him. Finally, Celine spoke. It isn't a creature. Silence. It isn't an army. Another pause. It is a messenger. Nobody liked that answer. Jace frowned. A messenger from who? The Empress looked toward the crimson gate. Fear flickered across her face. A rare thing, a dangerous thing. From what comes next? The ground trembled, violently. A distant explosion echoed somewhere above. Then another. And another. Kyle looked upward. The surface. One of the royal scouts sprinted into the square. His armor was covered in dust. Blood stained one sleeve. He looked exhausted, terrified. My lord! The scout nearly stumbled. Kyle grabbed him before he fell. "What happened?" The scout struggled to catch his breath, then answered, "The capital is burning." Silence. "What?" The scout looked around, as though hoping someone else would explain it. "No one knows how." His voice shook. Silver storms appeared across the city. Mira's eyes widened. "No." The scout continued. "Buildings vanished." The square went silent. "Vanished," Rowan repeated. The scout nodded frantically. "Entire streets." Lyra stared in disbelief. "People?" The scout looked away. "Thousands." Nobody spoke, because everyone understood. The gate had opened, and now reality itself was changing. The map pulsed again. A new symbol appeared, not in the north. Closer, much closer, directly beneath the underground city. Everyone stared. Malvek's expression immediately darkened. "No!" Rowan pointed at the marker. "What is that?" The immortal looked genuinely alarmed. "The heart chamber." Lyra frowned. "I've never heard of it." Very few people have. Malvek looked toward the depths beneath the ruins, toward darkness older than kingdoms. The chamber controls the gates. Silence. Then chaos erupted. A deafening roar exploded through the city. Not the Guardian, something else. A blast of silver light erupted from the depths below. The entire cavern shook. Bridges collapsed. Ancient towers cracked. Stone rained from above. The map flashed wildly. Every symbol changed. Every route shifted. Every destination disappeared. Except one. The heart chamber. The silver path now pointed directly downward, as though the map had made a decision, or received an order. Celine looked at it, then at Rowan. "You have to go." Malvek immediately shook his head. "No." Celine ignored him. "The heart chamber is awakening." "Good," Malvek snapped. "No." Celine's voice became sharp, urgent. "If it awakens without him, we lose." The immortal fell silent, because he knew she was right. That realization frightened Rowan more than anything else. Far beneath them, another roar echoed. Closer now, much closer. The Guardian. The colossal creature sounded distressed, almost afraid. A second roar answered. Not from below, from above. From somewhere beyond the surface. Something had arrived. Something powerful enough to frighten the Guardian. The underground city trembled again. Cracks spread across ancient buildings. Silver light poured from the fractures. Mira suddenly gasped. Everyone turned toward her. What? The young mage stared into the distance, listening to something no one else could hear. Then terror filled her eyes. It's speaking. What is? Mira slowly looked toward the crimson image of the Harbinger. The color drained from her face. It can hear us. Silence. Then a new voice echoed across the ruins. Deep, ancient, impossible. Not inside their minds. Everywhere. In the air, in the stone, in the resonance itself. A voice older than civilization, older than memory, older than humanity. And it spoke a single sentence. Where is the heir? The map exploded with silver light. Every symbol ignited. Every ancient mechanism beneath the city awakened. And far below, hidden in the darkness beneath the heart chamber, something answered. A machine. One that had been waiting for exactly one person. For exactly 1,000 years. Rowan. Chapter 11. The Heart Chamber. The city shook again. Ancient towers groaned. Stone bridges cracked. Silver light poured from fractures spreading through the ruins. Far below, something had awakened, and it was calling to Rowan. Not with words, not exactly, with recognition. The feeling struck deep inside him, a certainty older than memory, a certainty older than his life as Rowan Vale. The machine knew him, or rather, it knew Aaron Solis. Everyone felt it. The map's silver glow intensified. Its symbols rotated slowly around Rowan, like stars orbiting a sun. Malvek stared at them, his expression dark, complicated. It's begun. Nobody liked the sound of that. What has? Kyle asked. The succession. Silence. Rowan frowned. The what? Malvek looked directly at him. The crown systems are recognizing their ruler. The words landed heavily. Rowan immediately shook his head. No. The immortal sighed. It doesn't matter whether you accept it. The machine deep below emitted another pulse. A powerful wave of silver energy rolled through the underground city. Every Aurelan structure responded. Lights awakened. Mechanisms activated. Ancient engines began turning. The city was waking up, after 1,000 years, and it was waking up for him. Talia crossed her arms. I hate this. Jace nodded. Agreed. For once, everyone shared the same opinion. A violent tremor shook the cavern, this one stronger than before. A nearby tower collapsed. Stone thundered into the darkness below. The Guardian roared again, not in anger. Warning. Celine immediately looked downward. The heart chamber is opening. The map changed. The silver root expanded. New symbols appeared, ancient Aurelan text. Lyra translated automatically. Her voice trembled. Authorization accepted. Silence. Then another line appeared. Primary heir identified. Rowan felt his stomach drop. The text continued. Beginning restoration sequence. Every light in the city suddenly activated. Miles of hidden structures illuminated at once. Roads, towers, bridges, entire districts. The forgotten city blazed like a second sunrise beneath the earth. Everyone stared in awe. Then fear, because something else had awakened with it. The sound arrived first. Metal, heavy metal, thousands of footsteps, marching from every direction. Kyle slowly turned. What is that? No one answered, because they were all watching. Ancient doors throughout the city opened simultaneously, and figures emerged. Not people, machines. Silver-armored constructs, 7 feet tall, humanoid, perfectly still. For one terrifying moment, then their eyes lit up. Hundreds, thousands, an army, dormant for 1,000 years, now awake. Jace looked ready to faint again. Please tell me those are friendly. Nobody answered immediately. The nearest construct turned, its glowing eyes fixed on Rowan. Everyone reached for weapons. The machine knelt, one knee touching the stone. Then every other construct in sight did the same. Thousands of armored warriors kneeling simultaneously. The sight stole everyone's breath. A single phrase echoed from them. Not spoken, broadcast, through the city itself. Welcome home, crown heir. Silence followed. Absolute silence. Then Talia whispered, "Oh, that's not good." Before anyone could respond, a scream echoed from above. A human scream, followed by dozens more. The surface. Something terrible was happening. Again. Mira suddenly clutched her head. Pain twisted across her face. Make it stop. Kyle caught her before she fell. What do you hear? The young mage's eyes widened. Not with fear, with horror. The resonance. Her voice shook violently. It's screaming. The entire group fell silent. Because resonance wasn't alive. It couldn't scream. Could it? Mira looked toward the crimson image of the Harbinger. Tears streamed down her face. It's afraid. A cold chill swept through the city. Even Celine looked shaken. Then something happened that nobody expected. The crimson projection flickered. The Harbinger moved closer. Not physically. The image sharpened, as if the distance between worlds was shrinking. The shadow became clearer, larger, more real. And for the first time, they saw its face, or what passed for a face, rows upon rows of silver eyes, endless, watching, searching, seeking. One eye suddenly focused directly on Rowan, then another, then all of them, thousands of eyes, locked onto him. The voice returned, louder than before, stronger, closer. Heir identified. The city trembled. The constructs immediately stood, every one of them. Weapons emerged from hidden compartments, silver blades, energy spears, ancient cannons. An entire civilization preparing for war. The voice continued. Target confirmed. No one moved, no one breathed, because they finally understood. The Harbinger wasn't searching anymore. It had found him. Then the final words arrived. Words that made even Celine go pale. Commencing extermination protocol. Far above, beyond the surface, beyond the clouds. Something enormous blocked out the stars. Something descending toward Alara. Something that had already destroyed worlds before. And now it was coming for Rowan. Chapter 12. The World Eater. The words echoed through every corner of the underground city, commencing extermination protocol. Then silence. A terrible silence. The kind that comes before a storm, before a battle, before the end. Nobody spoke, because nobody knew what to say. A force capable of destroying entire worlds had just identified Rowan as its target. There was no comforting response to that. Jace finally cleared his throat. I vote we run. Talia nodded immediately. Best idea I've heard all day. Malvek did not smile, did not laugh, did not even react, because he was staring upward, toward the distant surface, toward whatever was descending from the heavens. It's too late. The words landed like stone. No one argued, not because they agreed, because they believed him. A violent tremor ripped through the city, stronger than anything before. Ancient buildings collapsed. Stone crashed into the darkness. Silver lights flickered wildly. Then a new sound arrived. A horn. Deep, ancient, powerful. The constructs throughout the city immediately froze. Then every one of them turned toward the north. Thousands of armored warriors reacting simultaneously. The sight was unsettling. What was that? Kyle asked. No one answered. The horn sounded again. This time Rowan felt it. Not in his ears. In his mind. A memory. A battlefield. Silver banners, golden armor. Cities burning beneath a crimson sky. And that same horn. The call to war. The memory vanished. Rowan staggered. Celine saw immediately. What did you see? A battle. The Empress closed her eyes. Then it started again. Nobody liked that answer. Not one bit. The map suddenly expanded. A massive projection appeared above the city. Not a map. A globe. The entire world of Alara. Everyone stared. Storms of crimson energy covered vast regions. Entire kingdoms glowed red. Cities disappeared one by one. Not destroyed. Removed. As if reality itself were being erased. Mira stared in horror. No. What is it? Rowan asked. The young mage struggled to answer. The Harbinger isn't attacking. Silence. Then she pointed toward the projection. It's harvesting. A cold chill swept through the group. Harvesting what? Kyle asked. Mira looked like she wished she didn't know. Resonance. Nobody spoke. Because resonance existed in everything. People, animals, forests, oceans, life itself. If the Harbinger was harvesting resonance, then it was harvesting life. Across the projection, another city vanished. Gone. Without fire, without destruction. Simply gone. As though it had never existed. The realization spread through the group. Entire populations were disappearing. Millions. And the invasion had only begun. Suddenly the Guardian roared. The colossal creature burst from the darkness below. Its enormous body rose between the ancient towers. Golden scales reflected silver light. Its eyes burned like suns. Every construct immediately knelt again. The Guardian ignored them. Its attention focused entirely on Rowan. Then the ancient beast spoke. The crown must awaken. The city fell silent. Celine's face hardened. No. The Guardian turned toward her. There is no other path. Malvek nodded grimly. I agree. Everyone turned toward him. That surprised them, because Malvek and the Guardian agreed on almost nothing. Rowan frowned. What does that mean? Nobody answered immediately. Because nobody wanted to. Finally, Celine spoke. The crown. She looked toward the distant heart chamber. It's not a title. Silence. It's a machine. The words landed heavily. Rowan blinked. A machine. The Guardian nodded. The greatest creation of Aurel. The projection above the city shifted. Images appeared. A colossal structure buried beneath the world, miles wide. Older than kingdoms, older than history. A machine built to control the gate network, to regulate resonance itself, to protect reality. The crown. Lyra stared in disbelief. Aurel built that? Celine nodded, and then feared it. The image changed. Scientists arguing, generals shouting, political leaders divided. The same conflict that eventually led to the Ashfall. The same conflict that destroyed their civilization. The crown was too powerful, too dangerous, too tempting, so they sealed it away. For 1,000 years. Waiting for the heir. Waiting for Aaron. Waiting for Rowan. The realization hit him hard. No. Every eye turned toward him. I'm not doing it. Silence. The Guardian looked almost sad. You must. No. The answer came stronger, angrier. People keep telling me who I am. The city fell silent. They tell me I'm Aaron. His voice shook. They tell me I'm the heir. Another step forward. They tell me I'm supposed to save the world. Another. But nobody asked what I wanted. No one spoke. Because nobody had. Not once. For the first time since this journey began, Rowan felt truly angry. Not at Malvek, not at Celine, not at the Harbinger. At destiny itself. I was a courier. His voice echoed through the city. I had a life. Silence. A simple life. A painful smile touched his face. And, honestly, he laughed once. A bitter laugh. I kinda liked it. The words hit harder than any speech, because they were true. Then Celine stepped forward. Not as an empress, not as a legend, as a mother. And for the first time, she looked heartbroken. We know. Silence. The simple words shattered something inside Rowan. Because she understood. She actually understood. Then another voice echoed through the city. Not the Guardian, not Celine, not Malvec. A new voice. Cold, ancient, endless. The Harbinger. And this time, it wasn't speaking to everyone. It was speaking only to Rowan. You were never meant to survive. The city shook violently. The crimson projection expanded. A new image appeared. A recording. Ancient, damaged, but recognizable. Aurel. The final days. The moment before the ashfall. A council chamber. Dozens of leaders arguing. And standing among them, a figure Rowan immediately recognized. The same silver eyes. The same impossible presence. The Harbinger. Standing beside the wardens. Not invading. Advising. Helping. The entire city fell silent. Because the truth became impossible to ignore. The Harbinger hadn't arrived from beyond the gates. It had been invited. Chapter 13. The Invitation. The image hovered above the city, frozen in silver and crimson light. A council chamber from 1,000 years ago, the final days of Aurel, the beginning of the ashfall, and standing among the wardens, the Harbinger. No one spoke, because the implication was horrifying. It hadn't forced its way into the world. It hadn't broken through the gates. It hadn't conquered Aurel. Someone had welcomed it. Someone had opened the door. Lyra stared at the projection. Her voice barely worked. No. The image continued moving. Ancient voices echoed through the city. Fragmented, damaged, yet understandable. A warden stood before the council. Gray robes, silver eyes, determined expression. The crown threatens reality itself. Murmurs spread through the ancient chamber. Another voice answered. The crown protects reality. Rowan recognized that voice immediately. Aren. His voice. 1,000 years younger. Yet unmistakably his. The sight left him breathless. The recording continued. The warden pointed toward the Harbinger. This emissary has shown us the future. The chamber erupted into argument. The Harbinger remained silent, watching, waiting, calculating. Then the image shifted. A vision appeared above the ancient council. Entire worlds burning, civilizations collapsing, stars dying. The council fell silent. Even through the damaged recording, the terror was obvious. The future being shown was catastrophic. The crown causes this, the warden declared. Another argument erupted. Aren stepped forward, young, confident, determined. No, the future vision vanished. The crown prevents it. Silence. Then the Harbinger finally spoke. Its voice sounded different then, smaller, more human, more deceptive. Both statements are true. A chill swept through the underground city, because manipulation was evident even now. The Harbinger hadn't lied. It had done something worse. Told enough truth to make lies believable. The ancient recording continued. The crown saves worlds. The Harbinger smiled, and eventually destroys them. The council erupted again. Fear spread, division spread, doubt spread. Exactly as intended. Celine closed her eyes. He poisoned us. Malvec nodded. Yes, the admission surprised everyone, because for the first time, Celine and Malvec agreed completely. The image continued. Years passed within seconds. Arguments became conflict. Conflicts became riots. Riots became war. The warden split from the crown. The crown struck back. The civilization fractured. And eventually, the gates opened. The recording ended. Silence returned. Nobody moved, because they finally understood. The ashfall wasn't caused by a single mistake. It had been engineered, planned, manipulated. The Harbinger had spent decades turning Aurel against itself, and it had worked. 1,000 years later, it was happening again. The realization struck Rowan hard. The kingdoms racing toward war, the panic, the fear, the divisions, the same pattern, the same trap, the same enemy, a different century. The Harbinger's voice suddenly returned. At last! The city trembled. You understand. Every construct raised their weapons, not toward Rowan, toward the sky, toward the approaching threat. The Harbinger continued. You were always the most difficult variable. Rowan froze. What does that mean? The answer came immediately. Aaron's solace. Silence. The voice echoed across the ruins. You were never supposed to escape. A terrible feeling settled in Rowan's chest. The Harbinger knew him, personally. Not as a target, not as a symbol, as an individual. The realization was deeply unsettling. Then the voice continued. I watched you die. The world seemed to stop. Even Celine looked stunned. Malvek looked horrified. What? Rowan whispered. The Harbinger's response arrived instantly. I stood beside the third gate. The city fell silent. I saw the light consume you. Rowan felt his pulse hammering. The third gate. The gate that had sent him into the future. The gate that had saved him. Or so everyone believed. The Harbinger's next words shattered that belief. The third gate failed. Silence. Absolute silence. Celine stared upward. No. For the first time. The Empress sounded afraid. Not worried, not concerned. Afraid. The Harbinger continued. You did not arrive in the future. The city trembled. The heart chamber pulsed. The map flickered. Reality itself seemed to hesitate. Because whatever came next, it was important. Dangerously important. The Harbinger spoke slowly, clearly, ensuring every word landed. You arrived in a different timeline. The world stopped making sense. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. Even the Guardian looked stunned. A timeline. Another reality. Another version of history. Another world. The implications were endless, terrifying. Rowan struggled to process it. What? The Harbinger's answer came softly, almost gently. This is not your world, Aaron. The silence that followed felt infinite. Then the heart chamber roared, a sound unlike anything before. A machine awakening. A machine listening. A machine reacting. Deep beneath the city, ancient systems activated. The map flashed. Warning symbols appeared. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Every symbol red. Every symbol urgent. Lyra stared at the display. Then her face lost all color. What is it? Kyle asked. The scholar looked as though she might collapse. Finally she answered. The heart chamber found something. Silence. What? Lyra slowly looked toward Rowan, then toward the Harbinger, then toward the warning symbols. And when she finally spoke, no one was prepared for the answer. It found another heir. Chapter 14. The Other Heir. The words hung in the air. It found another heir. No one moved, no one spoke. Because there was only supposed to be one crown heir, one Aaron Solace, one rightful successor to Aurel. The heart chamber disagreed. Red symbols flooded the map. Warning after warning appeared across the projection. Ancient systems processing impossible information. Ancient systems reaching an impossible conclusion. Another heir existed. Somewhere. Right now. Jay slowly raised his hand. I have a question. Nobody looked at him. Actually, I have several hundred questions. That was fair. Lyra stared at the map. This can't happen. Why not? Kyle asked. Because crown inheritance was genetic. Silence. The system was designed to recognize a single bloodline. Another warning symbol appeared. Then another. Then another. The heart chamber clearly disagreed with her assessment. Malvek stepped closer, his expression grim. Show me. The map immediately responded. Silver light expanded. A new image formed. Not a location, a person. Everyone froze. The image was blurred, damaged, incomplete. Yet the outline remained visible. A young man, approximately Rowan's age. Dark hair, silver eyes, silence. Rowan felt cold, very cold, because the figure looked familiar. Not exactly identical, but close enough. Far too close. The image sharpened. The young man turned, and for one impossible moment, Rowan felt as though he were staring into a mirror. Not identical. Related. Connected. The same way brothers might resemble one another. The same way alternate lives might overlap. The same way destiny might repeat itself. No, Celine whispered. Everyone turned toward her. The Empress looked horrified. Truly horrified. What is it? Rowan asked. Celine stared at the image, unable to look away. I know him. Silence. The world seemed to stop. What? The image flickered. The young man's face became clearer. Celine took a step backward. Then another, as though she had seen a ghost. That's impossible. The exact same words everyone else had been saying for days. Yet somehow this time they felt different. Because Celine actually sounded frightened. Malvek slowly looked toward her. You recognize him. Not a question. A statement. Celine nodded. Once. Barely. Then she whispered a name. Ash. The ruins fell silent. Even the Harbinger seemed to pause. Rowan frowned. Who is Ash? Nobody answered immediately. Then Malvek did. His voice had become very quiet. Danger. That answer did not help. At all. The map shifted again. New information appeared. Coordinates, locations, movements. The other heir was traveling, heading south, heading fast, toward them. Everyone stared. Kyle was first to speak. He knows where we are. Lyra shook her head. No. The map updated. The route adjusted. The destination remained unchanged. Straight toward the heart chamber. Straight toward Rowan. Straight toward the center of everything. Mira looked pale. The chamber is calling both of them. Silence. Then the Harbinger laughed. The sound echoed through the city. Cold. Victorious. Patient. As though a long-awaited event had finally begun. At last. No one like that. Not one bit. The voice continued. The paradox approaches. Rowan stared upward. What does that mean? The Harbinger's answer arrived immediately. It means one of you should not exist. A chill swept through the ruins. Because everyone understood. 2 heirs. 1 throne. 1 destiny. 1 mistake. Something about the situation was fundamentally wrong. The heart chamber suddenly emitted a powerful pulse. The city trembled. Silver light erupted from the depths. Every construct froze. Every machine halted. Every system paused, as if listening. Then a new voice echoed through the underground city. Not the Guardian, not the Harbinger, not Celine. A machine, ancient, cold, precise, the crown itself. Conflict detected. The city shook. Multiple heirs present. Another pulse. Stronger. Resolution required. Rowan's stomach dropped. The machine continued. Activating succession protocol. Celine immediately stepped forward. No. Malvek looked equally alarmed. No. For once they agreed instantly. That terrified Rowan. What is a succession protocol? Neither answered. The crown answered instead. One heir shall ascend. Silence. Then the next sentence arrived. And suddenly everyone understood why Celine and Malvek looked afraid. One heir shall be erased. The city went silent. Completely silent. Then the map updated one final time. The image of the other heir became perfectly clear. For the first time, everyone saw his face, and Rowan's breath stopped, because the other heir wasn't merely similar, wasn't merely related, wasn't merely familiar. The other heir had Rowan's exact face. Every feature, every detail, every expression. A perfect duplicate. Except for one thing. His eyes glowed silver, and he was smiling. Chapter 15. The Heir of Silver. The face hovered above the city. Perfect, identical, impossible. Rowan stared upward, unable to breathe, unable to think, unable to look away. The other heir smiled, and Rowan saw his own smile reflected back at him. The same expression. The same features, the same face, except for the eyes. Silver, bright, ancient, wrong. The image flickered, then stabilized. The duplicate tilted his head slightly, as though examining Rowan, as though curious. Then he spoke. Hello. The voice was Rowan's, exactly Rowan's. A chill ran through every person present. Jace immediately took 3 steps backward. No, nobody disagreed. The duplicate smiled wider. That's understandable. Even the mannerisms were similar. That somehow made it worse. The crown's voice echoed through the city. Succession candidates confirmed. The duplicate looked upward. Annoyed. Then back toward Rowan. I hate that thing. Silence. Rowan finally found his voice. Who are you? The duplicate laughed softly. Complicated question. Everyone exchanged uncomfortable glances, because Rowan had said almost exactly the same thing earlier. The duplicate noticed. His smile widened. See? Then he pointed toward Rowan. We really are alike. The statement felt deeply unsettling. Celine stepped forward. Her face had become pale. The duplicate immediately noticed. His smile softened. Goddess. The title echoed through the ruins. Celine froze. Absolute silence followed. Then the duplicate bowed slightly. Not mockingly, not respectfully, almost affectionately. I've missed you. The Empress looked horrified. You can't be here. The duplicate nodded. Technically true. Then he smiled again. But here I am. Malvek's ash blade appeared instantly. The immortal looked furious. Ash. The duplicate looked delighted. Ash Keeper. The title landed heavily. Nobody missed the familiarity. These two knew each other. Very well. Far too well. The duplicate folded his arms. It's been a while. Not long enough. The response came from Malvek immediately. The duplicate laughed. I was hoping you'd say that. Rowan stepped forward. Enough. Both ancient figures looked toward him. The duplicate's expression brightened. There he is. What are you? Silence. The duplicate studied him, carefully, almost sadly. Then he answered, I am what remained. Nobody understood. The duplicate looked toward the heart chamber, then toward the crimson image of the Harbinger, then finally toward Rowan. You went through the third gate. Rowan nodded slowly. Apparently, the duplicate smiled. You remember fragments. Some. You remember the escape. Pieces. The duplicate's silver eyes darkened, but you don't remember the sacrifice. A cold silence followed. Rowan's heart pounded. What sacrifice? For the first time. The duplicate stopped smiling. The answer came quietly. Me. The city fell silent. Even the Harbinger did not speak. The duplicate looked upward, toward the stars hidden above the earth, toward a past no one else remembered. When the third gate failed, the map pulsed. Ancient systems activated, listening, recording, remembering. The gate couldn't send a whole person through. Rowan felt cold, very cold. The energy was unstable. The duplicate looked directly into his eyes. So it split us. Silence. The realization spread slowly, horribly. The duplicate continued. You carried the future. Another pause. I carried the past. Nobody spoke. Because the implications were terrifying. Not a clone, not a twin, not another heir. The same person. Divided. Across reality itself. The Harbinger's voice finally returned. Correct. The city trembled. Aaron's solace was fractured. The duplicate looked annoyed. I was explaining. The Harbinger ignored him. One soul. Silver light filled the ruins. Two existences. The crown immediately responded. Paradox confirmed. Warning symbols flooded the city. Thousands of them. The heart chamber roared. Ancient systems struggling to process an impossible situation. The crown spoke again. Reality instability exceeds safe parameters. Nobody liked that. At all. Then the machine delivered the final diagnosis. Both heirs cannot continue to exist. Silence. The duplicate closed his eyes, as though he had expected that answer, as though he had known all along. Rowan stared at him. What happens now? The duplicate opened his eyes. No smile, no humor, no confidence, only sadness. The same thing that's always been waiting for us? The city shook violently. Above them, the sky itself seemed to scream. The Harbinger was closer now, much closer. The invasion had begun. Kingdoms were falling, cities were disappearing, reality was breaking apart. And still, the crown focused on only one problem, the paradox. The duplicate took a slow breath, then looked directly at Rowan. For the first time, he seemed completely honest, completely vulnerable, completely human. And what he said next changed everything. You think you're Aaron. Silence. The duplicate's silver eyes reflected the city's light. But you're not. Rowan froze. The world seemed to stop. What? The duplicate stepped forward. One step. Only one. Yet the entire city reacted. Machines awakened. Lights brightened. Ancient systems roared to life, as though recognizing him, as though obeying him, as though he belonged. The duplicate's voice became barely a whisper. Heartbroken. Terrified. Certain. I'm Aaron. The city trembled. The crown suddenly activated every remaining system. The heart chamber opened. Deep beneath the ruins, a colossal door began to move. And from beyond that door, something emerged. Not a machine, not a weapon, not a guardian. A woman. A woman who looked exactly like Rowan's mother. Exactly like Celine. Except her eyes were silver. And when she opened them, both Celine and the duplicate recoiled in horror. Because they recognized her. And because she should have been dead for 1,000 years. The woman smiled, then spoke a single sentence. At last. The Harbinger immediately fell silent. The crown fell silent. Even the guardian fell silent, as if the arrival of this woman terrified all of them. And Rowan suddenly realized something far worse. This wasn't the final battle. It was the beginning.